We're not going anywhere until we mock the ever-loving crap out of Gavin Newsom. The man, I don't accuse people of doing drugs often, primarily because everyone's going to say, Viva, confession through protection. And I know that there's people out there that accuse me of doing drugs other than the occasional snifter of port at Christmas. And by that, I mean, I like a good martini. I don't do drugs out of a morbid fear of a immediate massive heart attack, depending on the type of drug. Someone accused me of doing cocaine. And I'm like, oh my God, you have no idea what a pathological fear of death hypochondriac I am. I'm convinced if I accidentally inhaled cocaine or snorted cocaine, I would have an immediate heart attack. And the other mind-altering drugs, because unlike Joe Rogan, I firmly believe that drugs do not open your mind to different spectrums of the universe. I think they just fuck with the chemistry of your brain, and your brain is a chemistry that you should not mess with. And that is not only the result of having a neuroscientist as a wife. You start messing with the brain chemistry of your brain in ways that you can't necessarily undo. You are asking for big, big trouble that oftentimes comes with smoking some of this weed, which is massively potent beyond words. And forget DMT. I mean, you do like, I used to watch those videos on YouTube back before they were like totally blacklisted. The guy who used to take a hit of salvia and then try to do something. And it was like writing a letter to Congress after a hit of salvia. And the guy would take one puff of this and then fall into another dimension that lasted 2 minutes in reality, but could have been an eternity of having his soul torn apart by demons that would be indistinguishable from reality to him. And when you come out of that, you've created those memories. And I don't think you come out of that necessarily all the time. Set that all aside. Okay, fine. I believe Gavin Newsom is on drugs. After that long-hearted intro, Gavin Newsom has to be on drugs because the news of the day yesterday is that the Court of Appeal of state of California, whatever district it's in, overturned that wild, ludicrous order issued by, I think it's Justice Breyer's brother out of California. And like, I hadn't read the decision until I felt compelled to, because I understood that Gavin Newsom lost that decision. And then I go see a tweet from one Gavin Newsom, Gavin adrenochrome deprived, coke snorting Newsom. I'm joking, people. These are really only tongue-in-cheek jokes. But the man's on something. He tweets out yesterday, after the ruling, Donald Trump is not a king and not above the law. Tonight, the court rightly rejected Trump's claim that he can do whatever he wants with the National Guard and not have to explain himself to a court. We will not let this authoritarian use of military soldiers against citizens go unchecked. You read that, you would think that Donald Trump lost. It was unanimous. But first of all, just read this back, because you know where this steaming pile of human filth is going to go with this. Donald Trump is not a king and not above the law. Thanks for your catchphrase logo, dumbass. Tonight, the court rightly rejected the claim that he can do whatever he wants. Yeah, one of the arguments that was raised by Team Trump is that the courts have no oversight in his executive presidential duties. Okay. What do you think the court said? The court basically said, and I'll summarize it, then I'll pull it up. It's not, he doesn't have carte blanche to do whatever he wants. So shame on you, Trump. But we must be wildly deferential to the authority of the president. Now, they didn't use the word wildly, but they might as well have used the term wildly. Where the hell is the decision? Here we go. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Let me just remember it was page 3. Yeah, let's just get a little bit of the intro here. Gavin Newsom, adrenochrome deprived, high off his ass, too many meals at the laundry, versus Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth et al. Per curiam, 3 judges unanimous. The section 10 USC section 12406, Congress authorized the president of the United States to, quote, call into federal service members and units of the National Guard of any state, end quote, whenever one or more of 3 conditions are satisfied in response to disturbances in Los Angeles stemming from federal enforcement of immigration laws. The president invoked the section and only that statute to order 4,000 members of the National Guard for 60 days to protect federal personnel. performing federal functions and to protect federal property. State of California sued the president and Newsom yada. Plaintiffs' alleged defendants' actions were ultra vires, means out of his lawful authority, and violated the 10th Amendment to the United States Constitution. They also alleged that the Defense Department, yada, yada, violated the Administrative Protection Act, the APA. Plaintiff applied for temporary restraining order, and after a hearing, the district court issued a TRO enjoining defendants, the president, quote, from deploying members of the California National Guard in Los Angeles, end quote, and directing defendants, quote, to return control of the California National Guard to Governor Newsom, end quote. A radical activist out of his freaking gourd. I don't know how old he has to be. If he's Judge Breyer from the Supreme Court's brother, he's got to be old, demented, fart-brained. Basically told the president, no, you got to give back the National Guard to the you are subservient to the governor. Nobody's a king. Trump, you're not a king. Now give back your troop to King Newsom so that he can use them the way he wants to. By the way, it was Newsom or Karen Bass who brought in the LAPD and beat the ever-loving piss out of protesters, but nobody's up in arms about that. District Court issued the TRO primarily because it concluded that plaintiffs are likely to succeed on their claim that the president's order federalizing members of the California National Guard is ultra-virus because none of the predicates to federalization required under the article because the federalization order was not issued, quote, through the governor, end quote. The governor's got to ask for it. Otherwise, the president doesn't have the authority to do it. Horse shit that even a Canuck moron like myself could understand and predict, by the way. You can't always predict what the activist idiot judges at the lower levels are going to do, but the predictiveness, or at least the accuracy of the prediction when it comes to fruition at the higher appellate levels, should make people take a step back and say, maybe I should listen to these people who seem to be pretty accurate more often than not. Let me see here, blah, blah, blah. Notably, plaintiffs conceded that the National Guard members, if validly federalized, may be deployed to protect federal property. The district court determined that plaintiffs presented no evidence at the TRO hearing that National Guard members were engaged in any other activities, and plaintiffs do not contest that determination. Okay. Defendants immediately appealed. We now grant the stay. This is the paragraph that we want to remember, and that you might want to snip, clip, and share away with adrenochrome-deprived Gavin Newsom. He won. The court told Trump he's not a king. And, oh, by gum, I'm going to make sure that the Trump is not a king. Listen to what they say. Defendants have made the required strong showing that they are likely to succeed on the merits of the appeal, because that's what you do at the injunctive stage. We disagree with defendants' primary argument that the president's decision to federalize members of the California National Guard under the section is completely insulated from judicial review. Okay. It's not completely insulated. You ask for more in order to get what you're owed. It's not completely insulated, but this is what that stupid scumbag of a liar Gavin Newsom hung that tweet on. They said he's not a king. No, they reject the argument that it's not totally, completely insulated from judicial review. Nonetheless, we are persuaded that under the long-standing precedent interpreting the statutory predecessor to Section 12406, our review of that decision must be highly deferential. Here, Gavin, let me explain it to you in Canadian, It means that it's not totally insulated from review, but that the courts are going to be highly deferential to whatever the decision of the president is. So although he's not a total king in the parliamentary sense, he's the president, you stupid son of a bitch. And if he makes an executive decision, the courts are going to be highly deferential to it, as they are right now. Affording the president that deference, we conclude that it is likely that the president lawfully exercised his statutory authority under Section 12406, subparagraph 3, which authorizes federalization of the National Guard when, quote, the president is unable, when the president is unable with the regular forces to execute the laws of the United States, end quote. Additionally, the Secretary of Defense transmittal of the order to the adjutant general of the California National Guard, who is authorized under California law, quote, to issue all orders in the name of the governor, end quote, likely satisfied the statute's procedural requirement that federalization orders be issued, quote, through, end quote, the governor. Through, and not with the approval of the governor, because the governor doesn't override the president. Thank you. Even if there were a procedural violation, that would not justify the scope of relief provided for by the idiot, activist, lunatic, Breyer of the lower court when it issued the TRO. Our conclusion is that it is likely the president's order. Our conclusion is that it is likely that the president's order federalizing members of the California National Guard was authorized also resolves the 10th Amendment claim because the parties agree that the 10th Amendment claims turns on the statutory claim. End of storio. Gavin Newsom. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. He's a big fat loser. And I don't mean big and fat, I just mean a big loser. Is what he is, Gavin Newsom. And the harder, the angrier they get, the more outrageous becomes their conduct, the more stupid the mistakes they make are, which is why I always say hatred is a consuming force, and it causes people to act so irrationally, at some point they act to their own demise. So Gavin Newsom is one of those people. Rosie O'Donnell is another. The other thing is hatred is a consuming force because it makes you physically ugly. What did I say? It makes you physically ugly. It's like the picture of Dorian Gray, but in reverse. I've never even seen the picture of Dorian Gray. I just know that it's about somebody who doesn't age in real life because the portrait of him up in the attic ages with his life. I don't even understand and I'm not watching it, but I kind of understand the idea. And that's it.